I would really appreciate it if you could go and just quickly like and subscribe the podcast on whatever you're listening to, whether this is YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and honestly, there are so many more, and I'm not going to bore you with naming them, but it really helps out the podcast. So if you could just go do that, if you're feeling generous, it means a lot. Thanks. Welcome back to another episode of the 20 Survival Guide. This is your host, Emily Astley. Guys, I wanted to talk about something today that I really feel is quite important, especially at this time of the year. And I've gone through many a rut in my life. And I think the craziest thing is when you're going through the rut, you really don't actually have a clue that you're in it until someone spots it and kind of has an intervention with you, or you're so far down the line in the rut and you're like, something is just off. And sometimes life can just be so boring. And I don't mean that in a trivial way, but like if you're working and you've got your day-to-day life, things can feel so mundane. And like, especially if you're living at home and you're not with your friends at uni anymore, things aren't that exciting on the day-to-day. And I think social media makes us feel like it should be exciting every single second of the day, but it's just not. And that's like that's how life goes. It goes through motions, and I wish it was, but that's just when you're in like a boring phase, and like sometimes you have to just dedicate extra time to your career and you have to put things that are really fun aside. But there's a difference between having something that's a rut and just having a boring phase in your life. And I wish that I had a podcast episode that I could listen to that kind of told me what the signs were for if I was in a rut. And that's what made me think, guys, I need to do this episode, because if you are in a rut, or if you feel like you're wondering if you're just going through the motions in life, this episode is going to help you figure out if you're just in a phase that you need to prioritize certain things, or if you're actually in a rut, which we don't really want to be in. So without further ado, guys, let's get into the episode. I don't know how we got into, without further ado, let's get into the episode, but I think it was like the beginning and I never stopped doing it. I kind of love it. Anyway, I was in a rut this time last year, and I've probably spoken about this many times on the podcast now, because it was just Emily was not thriving like she is closer to thriving now. And Emily was not thriving in January last year. Like, she was really just low, and also never left the house. And that's so unlike me, because if you know me, I'm a very type A person, but I'm also a big extrovert, and I like to be out, I like to be busy, I like to be bopping about, people to see, places to go, hopefully enough money to afford it. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're living in London. But I was not leaving my house on the weekends, and then people kind of had an intervention with me and were like, this is really unlike you. The way you're living your life right now is very abnormal to the normal you. And there were many factors at the time, which is why I was in a rut, and I didn't realize them, because sometimes when you're so far in it, you need someone on the outside to be able to tell you to like get it together. But we're first going to figure out what is like, I wanted to just define what the difference is between a boring phase in your life and a rut, because those are sometimes easily confused. A boring phase is kind of self-explanatory, but a boring phase is, like I said before, if you're going through the motions in life because, you know, your career is really important right now, you have to focus on that. It takes a lot of time and energy, and you're putting it ahead of anything else, like external hobbies or your relationships, which sometimes is just, it's got to be done. Sometimes you can't juggle it all. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a lot. But if you are doing that, it's just something you've committed to. Like, you've committed to putting that as your priority in life, and we all have to do it, whether it's fun or not. Most of the time, that's what will happen. And especially in your early 20s, guys, this is probably the time where you have all that fuel in the engine and you're raring to go, and you should be using that on, you know, climbing the ranks in whatever it is. But, you know, I'm not one to tell you what to do, but that's just my belief. or go traveling, each to their own. But that's just gonna come to an end at some point. Life isn't always gonna be this boring, mundane phase. It's a short-lived situation, and you're gonna get better. Life will balance out. You know, let's say you've got exams because you've got some specific qualification. You're just in a boring life phase where you're studying, and then you're not really going out that much because you're sacrificing it, because life will get better once you pass your exam, and then you can go and have the balance again. That's a boring phase. And sometimes it's unfortunate, but life is a mix of that. But on the other hand, a rut, guys, is very different. Let's make sure we don't get them confused. A rut is like, as I mentioned before as well, you are doing things that you used to love, you used to really enjoy, whether that's a hobby, and you just don't enjoy it anymore. Like, it's lost all enjoyment, all spark, and you start to find yourself avoiding things that you used to like to do. You have lower energy than normal. You're not being fulfilled in the same way. Another one is like small tasks that are really easy and used to feel easy start to become quite difficult because everything requires extra effort, and it's like a sluggish thing. You kind of wake up and maybe find it more difficult to get out of bed, or leave on the weekends to do anything fun. You're kind of like, I'm going to stay in tonight. And then one time you say, I'm going to stay in tonight, turns into 7 billion times of I'm going to stay in tonight. It's fine to stay in. Look, I am so here for that. I'm like the first person to just be a homebody. I absolutely love to just be at home, whether that's reading, doing whatever, like inviting a friend over rather than going out on the town and then waking up and questioning my life decisions. I just mean, if you are staying in all the time and saying no to all these plans, then it's going to get really boring, and it's also going to get really flatlined. Like, you're not going to have anything to look forward to, and then it will become like an addictive, repetitive pattern. And the more times you don't go out because it's cold, or, I don't have enough money, or whatever it may be, you'll start to make more excuses for yourself and tell yourself you don't want to go out, and then kind of lose that side of yourself where you're like, oh, there's balance. It's not just work and then nothing, and work and then nothing. Another way to tell if you're in a rut is if you're feeling quite mentally unstimulated. This could be at work. This could be in any area of your life, but you're just not stimulated. Like, things aren't making your brain go, wow, I'm really excited to learn more about this, or that's so interesting. Let me deep dive into that further. Like, I want to learn more about that random thing that has nothing to do with my salary, but I'm just curious. If that's not there, and you are a kind of person who's very curious, and then that's a sign, guys. That's a sign you might be in a rut. Another huge sign, guys, and this one is a really big one to pay attention to, is you feel like you're behind in life, but also you start being really negative. You start being negative to yourself, negative self-talk. When anyone gives you a compliment, for example, your first reaction is something negative, like, oh, I like your jumper. Oh, it's really old, like it looks really ugly, but thanks, but no, I don't like it. It's just, that's a really silly example, but you know what I mean. And that's a great sign that you're getting in a rut, because you can't see the light of day. Like, when you're deep down in that hole, like, you cannot see the light of day. You got to really climb out of there. And that comes with just being negative. And then a huge thing and sign that you're also in a rut is if you speak to your friends and your friends are like really close with you and you share a lot, they'll be able to tell if you are just constantly being negative and you're negative to be around, and they've seen like an energy shift in you. And they hopefully will be able to tell you that if you ask them. And that's a really good sign to see maybe things aren't how you want them to be in life right now, and we need to do something about it. No one wants to be in ruts, but it's normal. So if you are in one, don't feel like life is just not going well for you. Like, the best part is when you're out of the rut, like you're back in the gang, like you're back in the group chat, everything's good again. You survived the rut, and I think ruts kind of make you stronger, not to be putting a positive spin on something that's really annoying, but they do. So how the hell are you going to fix that rut? Because it's quite harmful. The longer you stay in it, the more it can linger, and the worse it can turn into something permanent. And yeah, it sounds like a medical condition, but it's not. It's just not the one. So there's many ways that I've realized and how I've experienced getting out of ruts that I thought got to bring to the pod, obviously. Actually, before that, there's another sign that you can be in a rut, but not just a life rut or a career rut, but more of a relationship rut. And that's a whole nother kind of rut, obviously, because that's a rut with another individual. But there are signs for that, and that is, very much not wanting to have conversations about difficult things, not really having any energy to argue with someone or bring up something that you don't like because you just don't have the energy to disagree with someone, or conversations just begin to feel transactional. You don't really feel excited to see them, and you end up just doing the same thing, ordering takeaway and staying in, or whatever it may be. There's nothing exciting there. That's also important to pay attention to, because that's a totally different kind of rut, and it filters into the rest of your life. Like, it seeps into the rest of your life like poison, and then it becomes your problem and your rut, not just your relationship, but your entire life. So I know that sounds so negative, but I'm just listening to myself now. But for my relationship girlies out there, I need you to know that just because you're in a rut doesn't mean that they're not the right person for you. Sometimes when you've been in a long-term relationship, these things happen. But also, another sign that you can be in a rut, I don't know how many we've got here, but there's clearly a lot. So if you're thinking these sound like me, then don't worry, we've got a solution. But another sign that really tells me if I'm in a rut is when I hate being alone with my own thoughts. And on the day-to-day, I'm actually quite good with that. I used to hate being alone with my own thoughts, actually, when I was younger. And when I was at school, I would really just try and make any plans possible on the weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, Fridays, just so I didn't have to be alone. And I guess you could say I couldn't be alone. Like, I wasn't independent enough to be feeling comfortable to just spend time by myself with my own thoughts, because I didn't want to give it the time of day to think, what's going to be in my head? What do I have to think about? And if I make plans, I can just avoid thinking about them. So I would do that. And then when it came to university and learning to be with my own thoughts and spend time alone, I actually had to make an active effort to enjoy doing that, because I didn't. So all of this stuff on Instagram you see, learn to being alone with my own company, it sounds a little bit fluffy and it sounds a bit cringe sometimes to those who do like being alone with their own company. But I feel like I'm proof that it's really hard to be alone with your own thoughts. And when you are in a rut, you don't want to be alone with your own thoughts, because then you have to admit to yourself deep down in your gut that you are in one, because you're just kind of pushing it away. So when you are actively trying to avoid being alone with your own thoughts, guys, and you don't really want to write anything down, admit to yourself, you're disassociating from your brain and what it's telling you, that's a small sign that you could be in a rut. But it could also just mean you don't like being alone, and that's something you need to work on. But those are two different things. But it's a pretty good indicator. And one thing, I'm going to be harsh with you guys, because we only are giving big sister advice out here. Harsh, but with it's just truthful advice, and that's the only advice I believe is actually going to help anyone. So we only have real talk here, and the real talk is that none of these things will just change if you're hopeful and you just hope that something comes along, whether it's Prince Charming, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new hobby that's just going to fall into your lap, a really nice email that just changes your world and wants you to move country to get out of your rut. It's just not going to happen. You can't just expect it to change. Things won't just change one day. You have to make them change, and obviously we know that, but it's a good reminder from the day to day. I need that reminder. Sometimes I just want things to just be easy, and the job or whatever it is to just work out for me and just grab some luck that day, and something great falls into my inbox. But most of the time that doesn't happen. And in that sense, we have to do something about it. So yeah, you're the only one that can get yourself out of the rut. You can have friends around you to help you, but you're the only one that can do it yourself. And honestly, it's not that hard if you just pay attention to the signs. So what can we do to get out of this rut, guys? Because we're in January 2026. Big things are happening for us. Big things are happening around us. And we are the star of the show. We're the protagonists in our own lives. And I'm not saying that to be cringe or cliche, but you are the protagonist. You are the main person. You're the main act. Everyone around you is an NPC, apart from your best friends and whoever may also be in your circle. But it's your world and everyone's living in it. That's what you have to think. And I know that might sound, oh, you are just selfish. That's what selfish people think. No, it's not, because if you think about it like that, the world obviously doesn't revolve around you, but in your sphere, you are the center. You are the main character in the movie. So act like it and show people that you are. And what can we do to change that and really bring that to life if you're not an actor yourself? A huge thing is forcing yourself to actually admit this. Am I in a rut or am I in a boring phase? And if you're in a boring phase, like, that's fine. Maybe something really exciting will come along soon, or, you know, your priorities will shift and things will balance out, and it's just what happens. But if you're in a rut, you need to allow yourself to sit with your own thoughts and think, okay, I'm in a rut here. I'm actually going to admit to myself, which I don't really want to do, that I am in a rut. Once you give yourself the time with your own thoughts, it's step one, which is the hardest part, admitting. And once you've done that, everything gets easier from there. It's difficult, it's really uncomfortable, but once you do, now we can move on to the next stage. Stage number 2 it feels like, you know, this, what is it, like the 8 stages or 7 stages of divorce or grief or something. Anyway, unrelated. Stage number 2. Ask your friends. I'm hoping that you have like literally just one friend, actually. It just needs to be one who is a really good, honest friend to you. And you can confide in them and just say, look, Leisha, let's use Leisha. Leisha, do you notice anything different about me? I feel like things have just kind of been a bit off. Do you think I've been super negative, or I've just kind of been in a rut at the moment? Like, what are your thoughts? Or do you think I'm just being really harsh on myself? And Leisha's going to say, yeah, I think you are being a little harsh on yourself, but you've actually been quite negative recently, and it's kind of abnormal to your usual behavior. You never want to come out to the pub with us anymore, and your work is kind of, which used to be your biggest priority and your main love, something you really enjoyed doing. Now you just always kind of want to flake off after 5 p.m. and you don't really care to put the extra work in or the extra effort in or go the extra mile, and it just seems like you don't care, and you never were like that. So if Leisha tells you that, then you know, yeah, okay, the friends around me who see me from a bird's eye view are telling me that I'm a bit different. And that's confirmation that you might need to change something, or you might be in a rut. They are the best sources of information for this, because they have no other intention than to just be honest with you. So use them in a good way. What are we going to do next? What's a way that we can actually help ourselves to get out of the rut? And as you can tell from what I've already insinuated, what you really want to do is you want to get yourself out of the house. I think that's a pivotal point. That if that's anything you're going to take away from this episode, if you are in a rut, it's get out of the house. Go and do something, because, oh my gosh, that helps incredibly. If you are someone who, as I said, have just been staying in every weekend, not really giving any effort, and then it's starting to become the new norm, make sure that you make plans that differentiate your week, that kind of give you something to look forward to with your friends, and say yes to them, even if they're long or they're far away, or your friend lives far away. It's gonna be worth it. You need to stay in touch with them. Being connected with other people is like a huge reason why we, I don't know, it's just a reason why we actually enjoy life, like if you aren't connected with others, no wonder why you're going to be isolated in a rut. So say yes to plans. Start saying yes to more plans if you're someone who finds that easy to do. And then you have something to look forward to. Being around others, really good, really important. Another thing you can do is try something new. Like try a new hobby or try a new place for dinner or something that just shakes up the routine a bit, because clearly it needs just a revamp and a refresh. And if you can get the routine shaken up a bit, that could be really refreshing for you. So try something new, bring a friend along, whether that is, a new hobby or whether that's a sport. Just go and do it. You might hate it and then be like, you know what, this is so not for me. But at least you got your mind and your brain out of the usual norm and stimulated it a bit and forced it to try something else. Forced it out of its comfort zone. That's really good. But the main thing that I need you guys to understand when you are in a rut is that you just need some fun. Sometimes you just need some fun and some excitement in your life. And that changes a lot. Like if you have something to look forward to, if you have some excitement, if you have something that shakes up the stress and the boringness of your week, that's just important. Like it's underrated how important it is for us to factor in fun into our weeks. Make sure that you're having fun, because when you take life too seriously and you get in a rut because you isolate yourself, you think that you can't be going out, you think that you can't have a balance in order to do well at your career or focus on your relationship, and you just isolate all the other factors, it can cause a rut, and it also is just not worth it. Like life is supposed to be full of fun alongside hard work and everything else that may be what your life is. But factoring in fun is a huge goal of mine this year, to see fun as an essential, not as just a reward. Like fun is supposed to be an essential thing that you should have on your goals board, let's say, something that's a pivotal, essential thing that you need to factor into your life. It's just as important as everything else. It doesn't mean it needs to take up your entire life, but it's something that you need to be having, because, you need to let off steam. You deserve it. And fun doesn't need to be earned all the time. Fun should just be there. And that's something that I think really helped me get out of my rut last year, which was knowing I can have fun, I can go out, I don't need to punish myself, and there's more to life than just this. When you have good friends who drag you out, and this doesn't necessarily mean to the bar or to the club, it just means to do things, to stay active, to keep busy. Like people always say depression can't hit a moving target, and I know this isn't depression. I know they're totally different things. And a rut is so temporary, it can be, but it can't hit a moving target. So keep moving, keep trying new things, keep active. And like maybe not physically active, I'm not saying that necessarily. I mean, just keep busy, and you will realize that there's more things to focus on than just being negative and worrying about why you're not feeling as happy and you're feeling more numb. So if you are also someone who's like me, who just really likes to focus on like their career and very type A person, then you might need the reminder that like factoring in fun is an essential. That's another thing I really want you to take away from this episode. Factoring in fun is not weak. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you're not hardworking. It's an essential in order for you not to burn out or get in a rut. And that could be however you like it, but just almost see it as like, yeah, you've got the approval. You can go out. You won't be punished. You won't be a bad person. You won't be any less smart or hardworking or whatever it is if you go out and allow yourself to have a bit of fun and let your hair down. So thank you for listening to my long rant, but you can listen to this episode now. You can save this episode for when you feel like you are in a rut and always come back to it. And that's kind of what I wanted it to be like. So I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed giving this talk because we need to be a bit less hard on ourselves this year. Like the sun is shining right now. Life is good. We're going to be okay. So get up and keep going and soon enough it will be February. There's loads to look forward to, guys. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week and your Wednesday, of course. And I shall see you next week. Bye.